Let's go back. Secretary of State, South Carolina. Okay, all right. Secretary of State runs the state's election. Brian Kemp, governor of Georgia, used to be the Secretary of State. And while he was managing the election of the governor, he is running for governor. So what does he do as a Republican? And this is all documented, and he's admitted to it, okay? As the Secretary of State, he goes back to all the Democratic-heavy counties and starts reviewing the voter rolls and striking people off the voter rolls to cut down on the number of Democrats that are going to be voting. Okay? That's all been proven. Okay? That's why I tell you Secretary of State is important. All right, but let's talk about if the Secretary of State is running the state's election system and we invite him to come speak. Let's talk about it. So his general topic is going to be voting. Reasonable topic for him, right? Okay? So if he's going to give an informative speech, what would be his specific purpose?
To persuade people to do.
Okay, what was the second word you used?
Oh, never mind.
Okay.
Inform you of your what you can and cannot do, I guess, maybe to give you information on the parameters
On the
of voting.
process.
Okay? Prohibited activities, let's say prohibited activities in polling places. You can't post signs within 150 feet of the polling place. You can't, candidates or you can't have any, voters can wear, campaign T-shirts in, but they can't campaign in the polling place. What else would be an informative speech? How to register to vote.
Where to register.
Okay.
Times and dates.
How to find where your polling place is. How to find out if you're registered. Okay? This is all where the Secretary of State would be giving you information. Not asking you to do anything, not telling you that what's right or wrong, just giving you information. So what's something entertaining that the Secretary of State could talk about? He's talking to the Kiwanis Club of Aiken County. It's after dinner. Everybody's had a couple of drinks. What's something entertaining that he could talk about? You're thinking of something. Go ahead and say it.
How we cheated during the election.
How we cheated, Okay, I don't think he'd say that, but okay, good. That might be.
Depending on how much you have to
That
drink.
would be at an Aiken County Republican dinner.
How
Okay.
about hijacking voters? How you can hijack voters and get them to the polls for you.
I don't think that's something that they would say out loud, not necessarily entertaining.
Funny. I mean,
Okay, what would be something funny that they could talk about? Now, people are like, voting's not very funny. Okay, there was a guy that ran for mayor of New York back when de Blasio got elected. All the guy was, he had this like Hunger Games beard, He was an older African-American gentleman who had a big handlebar mustache and this wacky design cut in his beard. And he always wore black clothes and black silk gloves. And the only thing he would say is, the rents are too damn high. Okay? And they would ask him a question, says, what do you think about policing in New York? And he goes, what do I think about policing in New York? I think the rents are too damn high. And that would be all he would say. The guy was hilarious. He got 13% of the vote. Okay? There was a guy in 2016 ran for president as a Democrat. Walked around with a rubber boot stuck on his head with one campaign promise. Everybody gets a pony if I get elected president. Guy got on the ballot in three states running for, in the Democratic primaries. And when they had local debates, apparently, what was the guy's name? Hillary Clinton and I'm trying to remember what the guy's name was, governor of Maryland. They heard that this guy was coming, so they bailed. But Jim Webb, former Secretary of the Navy, senator for Virginia, didn't hear, so they would be asking, Secretary Webb, what do you think of the ongoing wars in Afghanistan and Iraq? And he would give it. Then this guy with a rubber boot on his head would go, what do I think of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan? I think if I get elected, everybody gets a pony. And then the commentator would just go, I hate my job. Okay? But we had a guy named Shorty Price in Alabama. Ran for governor for like 30, 40 years. His father was a rich guy, left in his will, said he can have all the money. He's just got to run for public office every 4 years. His father assumed that he would, get elected at some point, do something with his life. Shorty never got anything. Okay, every 4 years he would open pay everybody's bar tab, get his 100 signatures, go get on the ballot as governor, and that would be the end of it. And I ran. And one time I met Shorty Price. I was about 10 years old. He was a short guy. He was, kind of loud, kind of boisterous. Somebody asked him, "Hey, Shorty, what are you going to run for next time?" He said, "Well, the papers say I'm the perennial candidate, so I guess I'm running for perennial." That guy who was famous in the state of Alabama for 40 years. So he could talk about funny candidates. Anybody here ever heard of the Monster Raving Loony Party in Britain? It's a real political party, just like Labor, just like the Conservatives. Their big campaign promise in the last elections, a couple that got when Theresa May got elected prime minister, was that if we're leaving Europe, let's leave Europe. We're going to hire a bunch of tugboats and tow Britain over to Canada. That's what the platform they ran on. Okay, so that would be kind of funny. Now, persuasive. Secretary of State is an elected position, so what do you think a persuasive speech the Secretary of State might give?
You need to vote for me.
Vote for me. Okay? So does everybody see that process? Okay?
Quick question.
Shoot, quick question.
The vote for me, that was for persuasive?
Yep.
So, when we write a speech, we can do one that has one of any of those three, or we can attempt to do 3 in 1?
So I'm going to tell you that what I want you to do is to be very structured for the informative and the problem solution speech. I'm going to tell you explicitly you cannot be persuasive on those.
Okay.
If you have a call to action written in your outline, I'm going to tell you to take it out, because the persuasive speech is way more complex than just telling people you should agree with me. We're going to talk about that in great detail. Okay, so yeah, you can, for your first 2 speeches, the informative speech and the problem solution. If you want to be informative primarily and entertaining, that's fine. Okay? What other questions do you have?
Another question too. The informative then is going to be on any topic. This is going to be one of the speeches where we have we can pick a topic that has to stay away from political.
Yeah.
Religious. Okay.
Yep. Pretty much everything in this class, my intention is to give you as much freedom to do whatever you want. Okay?
Like the awesome parent.
I wish you would give us I do better if you give me a topic than having to pick a topic.
She's just going to be forced topics.
Just being honest.
Well, then, so what you need to do is you need to find somebody and say, give me a topic for a speech. Because I'm not going to do that.
So,
Okay? We've got a lot of other stuff to cover, so.
Go.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about your manuscript reading.
that's what I was like.
Okay? Manuscript reading. Remember the teaching point and the instructive point of the manuscript reading is forcing you to practice. Okay? So there's 40 points in the manuscript reading. 20 points of those are going to be time. And if you listen to me over the next 5 minutes, or over the next 25 minutes, this is going to be the easiest 40 points you're going to get this semester in any class you take, because I'm going to tell you exactly what to do to get 40 points. If you wind up at 259, you will get 0 out of 20. If you wind up at 401, I will tell you to stop and you will get 0 out of 20. We've got a lot of people in here. Do the math. 4 times 25 doesn't allow us enough time to do everybody. I hope to get through everybody on Tuesday. So we are going to be cycling through. So when you hit 401, I will tell you to stop. Okay? Does everybody understand that? How to ensure you get 20? You get that full 20 points. When you're at home practicing your piece, make sure you go to 4 minutes. Because then, remember what happens to your vocal rate when performance apprehension kicks in? See, look, all this stuff is building on itself. It's like I've done this before. Okay? You wind up, average vocal rate for an American is 120 words a minute. You bump that up to 140, which is about, what, 20% or 12% faster? You're still coming in at 330. You're golden for the time. But I've had people come up to me and goes, man, I only got 20 points on this. I said, yeah, your vocal delivery and your kinesics was really good. Okay, but you came in at 328. Well, I can't believe, or 228. I said, I can't believe that. Why not? Every time I practiced it at home, it was a 301. You think you might have spoken a little bit faster when performance apprehension kicks in? So time is easy. If you find a piece that's 4 minutes long, you're good to go. Right now, if you are looking at reading something, like I had somebody brought something up and said, I've read this out loud and it's 6 minutes long. And I said, well, cut some of it out. I don't want you adding stuff because I want all these words to be somebody else's. Because I want you to get practice reading someone else's words. Okay?
So it is okay to cut it down?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We can add that time, buddy, though, right?
Yeah, but what are you going to do? If you got like another sentence to read and you look up and he's going like 2:30, what are you going to do for the next 30 seconds? And you've got 5 words left.
Stare at
Yeah, no, you're going to be told to sit down. Because if you're clearly and obviously dragging it out by going, and we should all, at that point I'm going to go, sit down, you're done.
Well, can we like take like a nice dramatic pause, like, you know?
Not a dramatic pause that lasts 28 seconds.
You know, kind of be like.
That's not a dramatic pause, that's a stall.
So let's say I just said, okay, I'm reading something by Edgar Allan Poe, and he just killed the wife. So I stabbed her in the heart.
Wait, hold on a second. To make it effective, you would go, I stabbed her in the heart.
And she died.
No, you're not talking yet. You've got 30 seconds to kill. And I've only been 8. Okay? You know what? You know how you to prevent all of that?
By practice.
Practice. You know what words you're going to be reading. You should not be surprised when you get up here and suddenly find out, oh crap, I only went 214. I should not surprise you by telling you whether you did or did not get 20 points.
So we talk faster here.
You
Right.
talk faster
Okay.
under
So
performance
when-
apprehension.
When we're at home practicing, should we go like 4-2?
I would go I would shoot for 4 minutes. I would also shoot for listening to yourself and recording yourself and taping yourself so that you see what it looks like when you talk faster. Everybody understand that? Okay? All right. 10 points. Will be your vocal delivery. Remember, there are 3 aspects of the vocal delivery that you control. Rate, pitch, and volume. I want to see some variety. If you get through it by going, once upon a midnight jury, while I pondered, weekend weary, over me, you're going to get 3 points. If you finish, you'll get 3 points. If you would like 10 points, show me some variation in rate, tone, and volume. Okay? 10 points will be for physical delivery. Quickest way to get a 0 on this out of the physical is to do what?
Move around. Oh,
Not touch it,
hold on. Hold it.
but grab it. And I'm telling you, once you do that, look at what's going on here. If you can't see it, my feet are not even and shoulder width apart. I'm not gesturing.
Do we have to stand at the podium?
Yes, you certainly do.
We have to.
It's a lectern, and yes, you do. You have to stand here.
My apologies.
Because that's part of the teaching of this, is to get you used to having a lectern. Easiest way to do it?
Are we allowed to walk away from it?
Nope, not while you're delivering it.
Okay.
Because I want you to get used to doing it. You're in the back. I've already swallowed my gum, spit out my toothpick, taken my hat off, all at the same time. Give an ankle, Vic McInnes. I walk up, I place my papers, I move my first page over to the left, because how do we read? Left to right. I have my first page here, second page is all ready to go. You shouldn't go more than 3 pages. So you only have to move 1 sheet to get to your last page. Okay, everybody with me? Okay, I put my papers up here. I take a half a step back so that I can't comfortably reach the podium or the lectern. Because if you do that, this is really weird. Okay? Does everybody see that? If you stay right here, you're going to gesture and your hand's naturally going to hit that. And once that hits there, that one will go there, and you just got 0 out of 10 points. Everybody understand that?
So if at any point in time, both of our hands hit both sides of the electric thingy, we get a 0.
I am relatively reasonable. If you can stand here and let go, you're not going to lose the whole 10 points. But I guarantee you, if your hands ever get there, they will come back to there, and they will be there almost the entire time. I have seen it way, way too many times to think that that's not a comfort, okay? It gives you something literally, physically to hold on to, okay? But it also eliminates, what happens is you immediately wind up doing that next. It completely throws your posture off and communicates to everybody that I am incredibly not comfortable here, okay? All right, everybody understand the points? All right. Music video time. Anybody here know about Paul? Ever hear Paul Thorne? He's a blues singer out of Tupelo, Mississippi. Saw him over at the Miller Theater with the doing a show with the Blind Boys of Alabama and the McCreary Sisters. Anybody know who the Blind Boys of Alabama are? The McCreary Sisters. Oh, you guys need culture. Okay, they're two fantastic heritage gospel groups. Okay, so this is one of Paul Thorne's songs.
You said the Clark sisters?
The McCreary Sisters.
Oh.
This is Paul Thorne's I Don't Like Half the Folks I Love.
My family reunion is going on today. My relatives have all flown in from places far away. As we sit there eating chicken, it hits me like a truck. I don't like half the folks I love. Me and my former best friend had a big falling out. I caught him with my wife, so I punched him in the mouth. We just can't hang out anymore, but I still wish them luck. I don't like half the folks I love. God knows they're all dear to me, but if the truth be told, I like it when they come, but I love it when they go. I'm sure they got good quality, but the bad ones cover them up. I don't like half the folks I love. My alcoholic buddies are fun to hang around. When we drink together, peace and joy abound. But sometimes they bring me one more shot when they know I've had enough. I don't like half the folks I love. God knows they're all dear to me, but if the truth be told, I like it when they come, but I love it when they go. I'm sure they've got good quality, but the bad ones cover them up. I don't like half the folks I love. In this world we live in, this I guarantee. We all need more tolerance to get along peacefully. But I'm not as nice as Jesus, and I really am fed up. I don't like half the folks I love. God knows they're all dear to me, but if the truth be told, I like it when they come, but I love it when they go. I'm sure they've got good qualities, but the bad ones cover them up. I don't like half the folks I love. Oh, I don't like half the folks I love. Ooh, that's it.
Okay, it's one of my favorite songs right now.
Right.
I love Paul Thorne. Okay? So, I heard him. I went out and bought, this is the kind of guy I am. He did such a great concert. I went out, and I already had a whole bunch of Blind Boys of Alabama and McCreary Sister albums. And yes, I still call them albums, even though I get downloaded digitally. All right? So I went out and bought a bunch of Tom Thorne albums. I fell in love with that song. I listened to it occasionally. Then I went, my uncle died. Don't say that's too bad. I hated the guy, okay?
Wow.
The best thing you could say, well, I didn't hate him. I just hadn't been around him in 40 years because the best thing you could say about the guy, well, at his funeral, his granddaughter's husband, who's a Baptist preacher, the best thing you could say about him was he served in World War II and he had a job. That was it. He was not a good person, but he was my mother's brother-in-law. And with my parents both gone, my brother and I, one of us felt like we should go. My brother was doing something he couldn't get out of. So I drove over to Birmingham, went to the funeral. I got, anybody ever see Coal Miner's Daughter or Deliverance? That's that family. They're a bunch of country-ass rednecks that came from the hills of Tennessee when they found a coal seam in outside of Birmingham. And they're a bunch of country-ass coal miners. There are also several of them members of the Klan. I do not get along with them. We have had some really ugly discussions in the past. They don't invite me to things, but I still love my aunt, so I went to give my condolences to her. As I'm getting in my car, driving away from the funeral, I'm very angry, very upset that I don't have this relationship with that part of my family that I wish I did. And I just punched the button on my dashboard and I said, Siri, play some music. And that song by Paul Thorne popped up. Okay, and I'm like going,
That's ironic.
that was, I had to pull, seriously, I'm going around I-459 in Birmingham and I had to pull off the road. I was just like, free, okay? So I love that song. So I have been desperate, and that happened last March. I have been desperate. I started thinking, man, when it comes down to manuscript readings fall semester, I'm going to do I Don't Like Half the Folks I Love. So I got ready, and I would stand up here and I would go, and I started practicing it. And I've probably done this thing 100 times. Okay, I got the lyrics off the internet, and so I said, okay, I was going to come up and go, Paul Thorne's I Don't Like Half the Folks I Love. My family reunion is going on today. My relatives have all flown in from places far away. As we sit here eating chicken, it hits me like a truck. I don't like half the folks I love. Me and my former best friend, and I just began to realize this thing doesn't read well. And it's never going to read well. Okay? And what's worse is I begin to keep hearing, more and more I did it, the more and more I heard the melody in the back of my head, and I began to realize I was just singing it in a really flat voice. Okay? And I could not disengage from this song that I've literally been listening to more than I probably should have. Okay? For all the wrong reasons. Okay? Everybody understand what I'm saying? You may have some song, if you want to do song lyrics, that's fine. Be reasonable. Okay? If you think I'm doing something off Straight Outta Compton, you're not doing that. Okay? 2 people got that. All right? And yes, believe it or not, I own Straight Outta Compton. Okay? If you want to do Tupac, I will tell you, be very careful. I had a student last spring that said, I'm going to do a song by Tupac, and I just went, I went, this is going to be interesting. And she picked the one Tupac song that I know of that she could do. Anybody want to guess what it was?
Letter to my mother.
Yeah, Dear Mama. And she did it, and she hammered it. She did it with, she had swagger in it. She did it with feeling, with passion. She didn't do it like Tupac did it, but she did it. And I was like, when it was over, I said, I want to see you after class. And she thought she was going to get in trouble for doing Tupac. And I said, I wish I could give you more than 40 points. Okay, that's how good that was. Okay. She later, when we had the dunk tank, that's for Student Veterans, and so she also ponied up $100 to get me dunked 100 times. But let's not go into that right now. She's a little angry. Yeah, and then she walked off with some 4-year-old that gave him 82 throws. And if it's a 4-year-old, I can't act like he missed. So I got dunked 82 times in a row. Y'all get a chance to do that in the spring.
When are you going to do that again?
Yeah, it's in the spring. Okay, so. Yeah, okay. Bucket throw, money goes to the Student Veterans Association. Line up around the block. I won't be offended. All right, so let me do one actual. I'll do another 1 or 2. So I'm sitting here, and my very kind, hardworking, and energetic speech instructor goes, McGinnis, and I go. William Faulkner's acceptance speech for the 1949 Nobel Prize for Literature. I feel this award was made not to me as a man, but to my work. A life's work in the agony and sweat of the human spirit, not for glory and least of all for profit, but to create out of the materials of the human spirit something which did not exist before. So this award is only mine in trust. It will not be difficult to find dedication for the money part of it commensurate with the purpose and significance of its origin. But I would like to do the same with the acclaim too, by using this moment as a pinnacle from which I might be listened to by the young men and women already dedicated to the same anguish and travail, among whom is already that one who will someday stand where I am standing. Our tragedy today is a general and universal physical fear so long sustained by now that we can bear it. There is no longer problems of the spirit. There is only one question. When will I be blown up? Because of this, young man or woman writing today has forgotten the problems of the human heart in conflict with itself, which alone can make good writing, because only this is worth writing about, worth the agony and the sweat. He must learn them again. He must teach himself that the basis of all things is to be afraid. And teaching himself that, forget it forever, leaving no room in his workshop for anything but the old verities and truths of the heart, the universal truths lacking which any story is ephemeral and doomed. Love and honor and pity and pride and compassion and sacrifice. Until he does, his labors are a curse. He writes not of love but of lust, of defeats which nobody loses anything of value, and victories without hope, and worst of all, without pity or compassion. His griefs grieve on no universal bones, leaving no scars. He writes not of the heart, but of the glands. Until he learns these things, he will write as though he stood among and watched the end of man. I decline to accept the end of man. It's easy enough to say that man is immortal because he will endure. Then when the last ding-dong of doom has clanged and faded from the last worthless rock hanging tideless in the last red and dying evening, that even then there will be one more sound, that of his puny, inexhaustible voice still talking. I refuse to accept this. I believe that man will not merely endure, he will prevail. He is immortal, not because he alone among creatures has an inexhaustible voice, but because he has a soul, a spirit capable of compassion and sacrifice and endurance. The writer's duty is to write about these things. It is his privilege to help man endure by lifting his heart and reminding him of the courage and honor and hope and pride and compassion and pity and sacrifice which have been the glory of his past. The poet's voice need not merely be the record of man, it can be one of the props, the pillars that help him endure and prevail. Okay? Pretty simple, right? Anybody have any? What? Okay, I've done that once or twice. All right? But does everybody understand what they're going to be asked to do on Tuesday?
This next Tuesday?
Yeah, a week from today.
So when you get through with your speech, you just pick up the papers and walk.
You don't say a word, you just pick up your papers and walk off. That's another teaching point. Because it's really awkward for you, because a lot of y'all are in the habit of saying thank you at the end of a speech. This is an opportunity where saying thank you is really weird. And even more awkward than just walking off. If you finish and go, thank you, that really makes you feel like you're imposing on people. Okay?
I read a few that said thank you at the end of them. We'll just cut that out. That way you don't
Okay, if the author wrote thank you at the end of it, stick to that. That's what I will assume is happening.
And so it's okay if we're standing there to touch hands with each other, just
Yeah.
don't grab and hold?
In this instance, since, and again, it's okay to do it when you're actually up here giving a speech. Be fluid. Occasionally, people, when they're speaking, touch their hands.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Just
that's
don't
fine.
clasp.
Yeah, I was wondering.
And here, since you're not going to be holding anything, you won't have any note cards, everything will be on the lectern, it's free to use your hands.
Okay.
Okay? All right, yes?
like if we have a group of poems, are we gonna say like every title of the poem?
So if you're going to do a group of things, like 2 or 3 songs by a person or 4 or 5 poems, okay, if it's all by the same author, just say poems by John Smith, The Hunting Dog, and then start reading. When you get to that, pause for a second, and then give us the next title, okay? The Oak Tree, and then read that one, and then The Brook, and then you just, okay, do you understand?
So what if we chose somebody that we wanna do has, inspirational quotes and stuff, or do you want something more?
You mean like 62 inspirational quotes?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
stay away from that. That's going to be
Okay.
too choppy and not allow you to develop your vocal delivery because you're constantly going to be stopping and starting.
Now, what if the same person also does
Yeah.
short poems?
That's
That
fine.
guy's okay with that? Okay.
Okay? Okay, last thing that I haven't already mentioned. Somebody came up to me yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. And asked, what about the Bible? You've got this big thing about religion. Okay. Religious text, the Bible, the Quran, the Talmud, the Bhagavad Gita, any other, the Book of Mormon, okay? Those are all legitimate historic texts, okay? So if you want to read from any one of them, that is okay. If you want to give any commentary whatsoever, that is not. All right? So you get up here and you say, from the Bible, Acts chapter 23, and you read it, and I'm like going, that's 40 points, and you go, and that's why I love the baby Jesus. That 40 gets turned to a 0 that fast. Okay? If you read from the Bhagavad Gita and you finish up by saying, aren't Buddhists stupid? That gets a 0. If you say that's a very comforting this is a very comforting passage to me, 0. Any sort of commentary, any commentary that either advocates or diminishes a religion is going to get you a 0 immediately. I'm perfectly okay, for those of y'all who have read most of the Bible, read most of the Quran, the Talmud, the Bhagavad Gita. I haven't read much of the Book of Mormon, okay, but all those texts have some really, really good literature in it. The religious aspects aside, there's some really good writing in there, okay? And, if you got a good translation and you want to get up here and read it, that's fine. Just don't commentate on it when you're done. Because I am not going to have you up here advocating or diminishing a religion where there's a member of another religion or that, that will feel diminished while you're reading it. Okay? Is everybody that clear on everybody? We're going to show respect for everybody in this classroom. And if I don't, you guys call me out on it. Okay? That'll be fine. But we are going to, that is our goal. Respect for everybody in the room. And you don't know what religion all these people are. Okay? The premise that everybody in this room follows a certain, faith died 30 years ago. Okay? Yeah, I once told a guy who was ranting about, Islam that I was Muslim. His eyes got real big. I started talking about the 5 pillars of Islam and how Muhammad was the voice of God. And, I've studied Islam. I'm not personally Muslim, but he didn't know that. He got really freaked out by it all. Okay? So we're going to acknowledge that in here. Questions? Okay, your ceremonial speech, because we got a little bit behind because of Labor Day and a couple of other things, we're probably going to roll immediately into your ceremonial speeches 2 weeks from today. I will lecture on ceremonial speeches on Thursday. So go ahead, and it's a lot harder to find somebody to talk about who is alive, not a politician, not a religious figure, and not an athlete. It's harder to find than you think. I had one that I thought was great, and then I found out the ungrateful jerk had the audacity to die last year. I don't know why you should have thought about me and how much harder this made my life that he passed away.
They have to be alive.
They have to be alive.
We don't have to make a
No, you don't have to make an outline for that. And also, that will be using a lectern, and you can have notes, or you can have, and it's also perfectly acceptable to do a manuscript. Next week, I will have a ceremonial speech. I will have introductions for at least 2 people for you to see. Anybody have any questions? All right, that's it. We will see you guys on Thursday. If you were tardy,